What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Season 1, Episode 55, the Let's Build U.S.S. Voyager tutorial. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. And if you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, helping me and supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we got about a 20-minute episode. We're going to be kind of all over the place today, but we're just going to be focusing on details to the lower hull. Or excuse me, details to the exterior hull, upper hull and lower hull. So without further ado, let's kick back, relax, we're going to jump right into it. We're going to be replacing these panels here with a lighter wood color. The pink, I don't know, was just kind of standing out to me a little bit. I wasn't feeling it. Now, with that being said, if you like the pink more, I say go for it. But that's going to be a little bit what we're going to be doing here in the beginning. We're going to be swapping some things out and trying to get that detailing right. Once we get these couple of panels done, we're going to be jumping into and adding in a little bit more detail to our phaser emitters. Because one of the things I noticed with Voyager's phaser emitters, it almost has like a gold tint to them, or like a yellowish tint to them. So we're going to be adding that in. This is why I always say that, you know, pay attention to your details. It's all about the details. And this is why I take my time with it, because less is more. We want to take our time. We don't want to add too much at once. We're just going to do this little by little. We're going to throw in a couple of escape pod facades. Those aren't going to be practical, just for show, but you know, they're there. That's not looking too bad. We're not going to have a ton of these. We just want to make sure we're getting our placement. We do one thing on one side, we need to go ahead and do it on the other side also, just to make sure that we're consistent. That's not looking too bad, and it's definitely looking a lot better there since we swapped out the lighter tan wood half slab, replacing the pink one. That looks a heck of a lot better right there. Alright, so now we're going to be jumping into getting in some more details to the lower section of our hull. So you can see I've got my builder line, or excuse me, not my builder line, my cut line that I'm going off of, so I can get my starting point right where I want it. Yeah, that looks a little bit better. We're going to do 2 by 2 with a 2 block gap, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. That was one thing I was actually kind of surprised with when I was building Voyager out, because when you're watching the show, there's things that you don't really pay attention to. And when I was looking at the bottom of the saucer section, I was actually kind of surprised with all the detail that it had underneath there. I was like, oh, I'm like, this is kind of cool. You know, this will give us a chance to keep the ship from being more plain, because that's, I wouldn't say it's a gripe, but that's one of the harder parts about Voyager, is that she doesn't have a lot of detail in her. So we kind of have to either be creative and adding in, you know, some pinstriping here and there, or looking at a couple of different source material photos to try to get an idea of where we can get a little bit more detailing in here and there. Alright, we got the emitters that we're adding in underneath. Remember, consistency. So we switched to that lighter tan color, so we want to make sure that all these are now matching. Alright, cool. So now we're going to build that out the same way here. And you can see I'm just stopping shy of that next cut line, and you just need to count this out. Like, sometimes I come across this problem every once in a while when I notice people are doing my tutorials. Like, not all people, most people for the most part, don't need anybody to hold, don't need me to hold their hand. They're good. They see what I'm doing and the points across. But I notice every once in a while some people, they get upset because I'm not calling out the exact blocks, and it's like, look, you know, I'm showing you everything that you need to do here. And I think at the end of the day, you don't have to do this block for block. As long as you're following the gust of what we're doing here, you should be in good shape, because I promise you, you guys are going to see it when I put out, when we start doing more for the Enterprise D Season 2. Eagle-eyed viewers might even notice it sooner, but there's subtle differences between the rebuild Enterprise D and the original, and that's just because I went back and I watched the tutorial, because originally I wanted the Enterprise D to be as accurate as possible from the original one. But then the more I was getting into it, I was like, you know, I want to take this opportunity just to like follow what I'm doing, but not trying to do it block for block, and just see what happens. And I was surprised with the outcome. So what I'm trying to tell you out of this is that if you're one of those people that you need that block for block thing and you can't sit here and count this out yourself, give yourself a little bit more credit than that. You know what I mean? Try to come up, or try to build this out. We go through our steps as we're building this out, but at the end of the day, even Voyager it's a larger scale ship. This is why I say that if you're not familiar with shipbuilding, you're doing yourself a disservice by starting off with this scale, or even or anything large, because look at it like this. In that trial and error period, the larger you go, the more backtracking you got to do to fix those mistakes, and it's going to be more frustrating because you have to backtrack more and more and more, as opposed to if you build something smaller, it's a lot easier to clean up your mistakes. And as you develop and learn these rules that we have in place, or at least my rules that I have in place as we build, things will slowly start getting a little bit easier for you. Now, see, this is what I'm talking about right here. Like, this looks awesome. You know, we had our emitter that we added in, but it wasn't quite sticking out the way that I wanted it to. So just adding that light gray pinstripe going around it, now it makes it pop just a little bit more. So just finding that nice balance sometimes, you know, adding in that pinstripe to highlight certain things can really bring out the detail in your ship. All right, so now we're going to be switching gears back to the upper section. I told you guys we're going to be kind of all over the place in today's episode, getting in that detailing. But now we're going to add in that gold coloring to the phaser emitters. Now, I don't know if this is 100% canon. You have to bear in mind that when I was looking online doing research, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there were some photos that I saw of Voyager where the phaser emitters look black. Others, I saw this like gold tint to them. At this point, literally, it's dealer's choice. You know, do what works for you. If you don't think that adding in this extra ring looks good, get rid of it. You know, that's the beauty of building these ships out. They're completely customizable, and at the end of the day, nobody can sit there and tell you what's right and what's wrong. It's your build. Have fun with it. Do whatever you want. Now, since we've got that gold ring in, we want to strengthen it up a little bit, just like we did with the paneling underneath the hull. So we're going to go around and add in a black row going along the underside, and then we're going to repeat that process again on the left side of the ship. Once you do that, then we're going to come up and we're going to start making some additional cuts going along the underside of the saucer. It's really just adding in another cut panel. So now we did that, we're going to do the same thing on this side. So you see I'm going 2 in, that's my starting line. We're going to bring that going all the way back until we get to our last cut, right there. And now we're going to come back following the same rule that we had for this paneling. We're going to fill in the gaps with half slabs, so that this way we have some texture on the underside of the hull, and it'll bring out the paneling just a little bit more, as opposed to where if we just use a solid block in a different color. This is another thing too, you know, knowing what to do, whether to use a solid full block or to use a half block. So like in this case, we're going to do both. We're going to use a combination of the half slabs on the outsides to make the paneling pop out more. And then we're going to replace all that paneling with gray. So you can see I've already done it here, even though I didn't really look at it. But all the paneling on the underside of the saucer, I don't build it out here because it's a huge amount of repetitiveness. But all these little panels underneath here that we have in the cutouts, you're going to want to make those gray, in that light gray. Do that for both the right side and the left side. Once you've done that, we're going to pick up on the next steps. Alright, so we've knocked that out. So we're going to start to add in a couple more detailing here on our phaser emitters, I think. I did notice that on one of the reference photos that I had for Voyager, that she had like a little bit of red striping at the very beginning and very end of the phaser banks. So I wanted to add in that detail. And of course, now that I've established that my phaser emitters are going to be gold, I want to swap out that lower line and replace that with yellow. And you're going to do that for both the right side and the left side, I think. Or maybe, hold on a second. I stand corrected. Bear with me, you know, it's been a minute. I think we might end up doing, if I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to do gold going behind that. Let's kind of let it marinate for a second and see what we do here. Normally I go back and I pre-watch these videos beforehand, but I don't recall exactly what I did right here. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we're going to essentially do the same thing we did up top. And that's swap out, well, not swap out the gold, but in addition, I think we're going to do like a line of gold underneath with it. If we don't hit it now, I think we're going to come back to it at a later point. So you can see I completed the steps on the left and right side, getting in that detail. I want to point it out here a little bit. That looked a little funky to me. That doesn't look too bad. We'll just square that off in the back. I mean, you could make it going at a point, but I don't know if it necessarily needs it on the back side. And this is another thing too. Voyager's phaser emitters does not go the full length of the saucer section. It stops, if I'm not mistaken, right before the back of the bridge ends. So that's why I don't have them going back all the way, and there's a couple of extra phaser emitters in the back. Yeah, see with that gray paneling there, like, that's just that right there. It's a subtle detail, but it's making the ship's looking pretty good. So you want to add in that red to match the lower side. So we're going to do the little red strips in the front and back of our phaser emitters. And we're going to have a little bit of a gap on the back side. That might not look too bad. You could bring it right up on the dark gray, and I don't think it would look bad, but I think for now I'm going to have a 1 block gap in between them. That's not looking too bad. I think we're going to come over to a back phaser emitters and add in that extra bit of detailing there with the red, just to stay consistent with what we're doing, even though we haven't added the gold phaser emitters on the back sides yet. I think we'll do that at some point. That's not looking too bad. Yeah, she's looking pretty good. I mean, you could technically stop right here and be done with it, but believe it or not, we've got a lot more detailing to do. Quite a bit more. And we still haven't even fleshed out the bits of the interior that we're going to do with Season 1, so we still actually have a little bit more to do with this build. Um, so I decided to come back, and we're going to make the very back end of the bridge just a hair shorter. Just bringing it back by 1 block. And then we're going to move this up by 1. There we go. This way they're not both riding up on each other, have just a little bit of a gap in between. I think that looks a little bit better. And I think I had somebody commenting on this the other day, asking why I went with white instead of a gray. It's the same reason I did the same thing with Enterprise D. That because during the course of building, I've just decided that I can do stuff a little bit better if I use a combination of full blocks and half slabs. The downside to that is you can really only use the white quartz and white concrete to pull that off, to where it looks good and it all matches up. If you try to use any of the grays, the half slabs, to me they don't look right. So that's the main reason why I build in the color that I do, even though it doesn't technically match perfectly, but at the end of the day it doesn't look bad, I don't think. So we're trying to figure out just a little bit of the detailing in here for the front deflector dish, for the front saucer deflector dish. We're still not done with the shape of the upper section of the saucer, if I'm not mistaken. We have to make one final pass at it. We just haven't done it just yet. But I don't think that the that front deflector dish is going to change too much. It's really going to be some of the layering right around this area here that we're going to have to readjust. And it's not going to be a huge adjustment, it'll be minor. Alright, so now we're going to be getting into the final steps of today's episode. We're going to slightly tweak our photon torpedo launchers on the rear section of the neck. And see, this is why I like, experimenting and trying different things, like, because to be honest, like, sometimes you just don't know where you're gonna land unless you try something out. This is why one of my rules is sometimes you just got to throw something down, see how it looks, because doing that, at least for me anyway, what ends up happening is that that's when the wheels really start turning, because you're working the problem essentially. And it's like, okay, well, I tried that, does this work? What do we need to do? What works about it? What doesn't work? What can we do to change that out? And I think right here, one of the issues that I had is that the torpedo bays, they didn't really look like torpedo bays. So I came up with the idea, I'm like, well, I could try using the stairs and have them facing each other, give that nice tubular look, so it actually looks like there might be something shooting out of there. The one and only downside is that this the hole in here will be white. So, I don't know. That's just something to think about. If you like how this looked before, don't change it. That's the beauty of doing your own custom ships. Do whatever you want. Do what works for you. Now, this is making my eye twitch, because basically what's not working for me is that it's not going with the cut. So, I want to bring it back. I want to redo these torpedo bays so at least they're going with a cut line, I think. And if I can do that, then maybe it won't make my eye twitch so much. Because at least for me, when I do my shipbuilding, those of you that have been on my channel for a while, I go with the cut line. And I do this for a reason, because following your cut lines, sticking to your patterns, these are the things that can show you where you're making mistakes. Because if you follow your patterns and then you go back and you start looking at your ship and you compare areas, you can spot out those errors, you know? So going with the cut line and following those patterns is super beneficial because it can help prevent you from making mistakes. And it's like, look, here's the thing. Even me, I make mistakes all the time. Like, I'll still, to this day, I get people messaging or commenting like, at such and such time in this episode you made an error. I'm just like, yep, I sure did. Don't worry, we'll come back, we'll fix it. But I mean, some people might not like it, but at the end of the day, that's just the truth of it. You know, everybody's human, people make mistakes, but that's why we have these rules in place to try to help us to make these things as accurate as possible. Because one thing to consider, we're not using any computer program to build this thing. We're not using any set blueprint. Other than a pixel circle generator, we're building this thing block for block by hand. And that's why there's not that many people that are doing this stuff on YouTube, showing you actually how to build these ships, because they're not that easy to do. I spent years just working on the Constitution class, my first build on Minecraft. Well, not my first build, my first starship on Minecraft. And it took me a long time to get this process down. So that's why I like when I make suggestions and I say start off with a smaller build or do this or do that. It's because I'm trying to save you guys from making some mistakes that I made. And I wish that there were more people that were like me that were offering to give advice so that people could progress in the shortest time frame possible. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. We knocked out quite a few things today. We're getting that detailing done, but we still have some work to do on Voyager. So, you know, hang with me through the rest of this tutorial series. We're just going to do it one episode at a time. How many episodes it takes, that's what it takes, you know. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. And if you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button. Drop a comment below. All that stuff really helps out my analytics on my channel, and it helps my channel grow. So if you want to see my channel grow, if you can just take the time to do all three of those, I would greatly appreciate it. If you do have any questions though regarding today's episode, or you're just dropping by to say hey, you know, drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. Any build suggestions you want to see, be sure to drop your comments below or post them in Discord. And you can also post your ship builds in the Discord as well. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for me today. But I hope everybody has a happy and safe week, and I'll catch you in the next episode. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Post your photos in the Discord so the community can see them.